We now take a look at our good dead friend, Pythagoras. Pythagoras lived approximately 570 to 495 BC, born on the island of Samos, and then moved to Croton in Italy. He is credited with the famous Pythagorean theorem, although some people debate whether this is true or not. He founded a religious community in Croton that accepted both men and women. His followers took him to be divine, and hence tended to attribute their works to him, which raises the question about whether the works are his or not. Now, according to some experts, although these works were written in his name, the best evidence is that he did not write any. Now, this doesn't mean that he didn't have any ideas, because what it is believed is that his actual ideas and thoughts were passed on verbally, and his followers supposedly were sworn to secrecy. And so this was kind of an unusual sect, or if one was going to be critical, regarding it as a cult, because it combined both science with religious mysticism. It lasted about 200 years as a sect, or cult if you prefer, but its ideas obviously lasted considerably longer. And Pythagoras is believed to be the first person to actually call himself a philosopher. So what was going on in terms of the religious aspects of his organization? Well, one key thing that makes it a religion rather than just a philosophy is the notion at salvation, because his view is that the aim is purification, and purification aims at salvation. Now, he regarded the soul as immortal, and he also believed apparently in reincarnation, that after death the soul would migrate into another body. Also, not just humans, but possibly an animal's body as well. Now, because of this, there are some that claim that he regarded eating animals as a sin, and the reason presumably being is that a cow one might eating could host the soul of an ancestor. So, an interesting view is that you have a soul, it's immortal, and there's migration. So you have reincarnation. So in some ways, similar to other faiths that have reincarnation, very famously Buddhism, for example. Also similar to Buddhism is his view that the goal is to escape from rebirth and the prison of the body. And the way to do this, according to Pythagoras, was purification. So how does one attain this salvation through purification? Well, purification for him is obtained through various rites, and not rights like in the right to free speech, but rites as in rituals, etc., and an aesthetic life. It also required, and this is where the science and philosophy comes in, obtaining philosophical wisdom. And so, in order to achieve this salvation, you must understand the universe to achieve harmony with this universe, and that's how you get to salvation. And so for Pythagoras, there was no division or distinction between religion and science, or between intellectual activity and worship. So sort of an interesting religion sect, or looked at negatively as one might, a cult. And of course a cult is just a religion that one does not like, and a sect is a religion one is at least neutral towards. So what is, philosophically speaking, what is he really known for? Well, he advanced, which is not surprising given the math stuff, this notion that reality is mathematical, and hence the image of the matrix there. In a way, a good analogy would be like the Matrix. Spoiler for the original Matrix from 21 years ago. But of course, the reality that the characters think they're in is not actually real. It's a computer simulation, essentially created by code. So one way to look at the way Pythagoras thinks of the reality is imagine the Matrix, all mathematics, and then, but it's not being run on a computer, it is reality. And so for Pythagoras, the universe has an order and unity which is mathematical. And the foundation of reality for him is numbers. And numbers are real. Now, I don't mean the sense that you could have, refrigerator magnets, of numbers, stuck on the fridge or writing them out on paper. He means not that there are like symbols of numbers, but numbers themselves are real things. They're real metaphysical entities. And these numbers have objective properties that we can discover. So instead of us making up mathematics and creating these symbols and having it be like a construct, math is, well, reality. It's like how we think of how we look at, say, the difference between our political systems and our laws, which we essentially just make those up. They're just created. Against matching that up against, say, biology and chemistry, where we believe that there are objective qualities, like an animal really does have certain genes and features, chemicals have certain properties, and we discover those. And so Pythagoras looks at numbers in a very similar way. We can study the numbers as you might study, say, a chemical or planet or an insect, and find out its qualities, its features. So how does the reality get built up? Well, he begins with mathematical points. These points, if you remember geometry, the points can be used to produce lines. Lines create plane figures, and these produce solids. And in geometry you can construct everything using points. And so he believes the universe can be known from these points. Now later, our good dead friend Leibniz will also believe in metaphysical points, but he'll take them also to be real, but rather different. Spoiler, he calls them these monad things. So, according to Pythagoras, at least on some views, we can reason about the lines and planes without thinking about physical objects. So sort of abstractly thinking about geometry. But he asserts you cannot understand physical objects without understanding mathematics. Now, to this day, people who do math, seriously, they address this question. Some people are what are called realist about math, which is that they believe that numbers are real entities. Again, not just like fridge magnets and stuff written on paper, that they are real metaphysical entities. And there are those that deny this. And of course, they also tend to divide along the idea that math is a discovery. You're discerning features of objective reality, versus math is just something we make up and create. Now, Pythagoras, in addition to his math stuff, he's also known for the harmony of the spheres. He also liked music quite a bit. And interestingly enough, the connection between music and math is well known today. People who are good at music are often good at math, and sometimes vice versa. So he claims that music provides evidence for the mathematical nature of the universe. Why think this? Well, when Pythagoras was doing his stuff, it was discovered that the differences between musical tones are a mathematical function of exact numerical ratios. And the physical nature of the strings doesn't matter as long as the mathematical properties are correct. So kind of an interesting feature of musical instruments. You can make the strings from just about anything as long as you have the properties correct to produce those sounds, which is why we can have a wide range of instruments. And people occasionally, for sensational purposes, play very strange instruments, but are able to produce, seemingly, I don't want to say normal, but, regular sounds. And they're exploiting, the mathematical properties of these objects. So the Pythagoreans reasoned that if numbers are the foundation of music, then, interestingly enough, they could be the foundation of reality. So from music to reality. And this is where they get the notion of the harmony of the spheres. The planets, not like pointy sticks with, for stabbing stuff. So according to their measurements, those of the Pythagoreans, the planetary distances match those of the musical scale. And they took this as additional evidence for their view. And they made the obvious analogy to the body. The harmony of the body is, comparable to this. And so bodily health was seen as the result of all parts being as in harmony. And they took this as additional evidence for their view as well. Now, the Pythagoreans are also known for the conflict of order and disorder. On their view, the universe was taken to be governed by eternal conflict between order and disorder. Perhaps, put another way, law and chaos. And this is something that ends up being either influential or perhaps just by coincidence adopted. The idea that you have these warring opposites. And so they had a table of opposites, where you have the side of order and the side of disorder. So on the side of limit, on the side of order you have limit, disorder, unlimited, then odd versus even, one versus many, right versus left, male versus female, rest versus motion, straight versus crooked, light versus darkness, good versus evil, square versus oblong for some reason. And you may wonder why unlimited is disorder, or even is disorder, or left is disorder, but that's the way they divided stuff up. And so this division presents a form of metaphysical dualism. There are two basic types of things. There are things of order and things of disorder. The division also presents a form of moral dualism. And they seem to believe, in terms of preferences, that order had an advantage over chaos. This conflict, they claimed, also occurs within the soul, and the soul takes on the form of what it contemplates. Or, put another way, you are what you think, or think about. So studying the mathematical harmony of the outer universe will cause inner harmony, at least according to the Pythagoreans. The study also leads the mind away from the senses and the prisons of the physical world, thus freeing and purifying it. So we have here an interesting blend of philosophical thought and religion, basically achieving salvation through math. So why was Pythagoras and the Pythagoreans, why were they important? Well, obviously the math stuff. But philosophically, here are some reasons why they're important. First, they took metaphysical theories to have relevance to life, that philosophy is a way of life. Second, they provided the first known considerations of individual ethical concerns in philosophy. And again, we're talking about the ancients. We don't know for sure who was first, because we've lost so much. So many things were either never recorded, or the writings were long lost. They also emphasized form over matter. The universe was to be understood in terms of mathematical order rather than in terms of basic material substance. And as I mentioned before, math. So they advanced the field of mathematics, building on foundations laid by the Egyptians and Mesopotamians, and so math stuff. They also seem to be the first to apply the term cosmos, meaning order, fitness, or beauty, to the stuff. And this is a term that's today we have cosmology, the study of essentially the universe, and one could even say we get our term cosmetics from that. They also provided the theoretical foundation for the rise of modern science, which was based on the mathematical view of the universe. So pretty important thinkers, and they added quite a bit to philosophy and math. So that takes us to the end of our good dead friend Pythagoras and the Pythagoreans. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the future.